And the slides that we'll be sharing today will be shared with all of you afterwards for your reference and review. So we will be pausing multiple times throughout the webinar to address any questions you have. So please feel free to drop it in the chat or also use the Q&A function at the bottom. If possible, please keep the questions to the topics covered to that point. And at the end, we'll have an open Q&A session for you to ask any questions you may have. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So, welcome to the Capacity Building Program Grant Overview webinar. We're really excited to kick off this opportunity. And as always, feel really privileged and blessed to do this work with all of you. Throughout this grant period, please do not hesitate to reach out to Paul Bender Core if you have any questions or concerns. And we can go ahead and get started with introductions, actually. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Paul Bender to introduce themselves. They may be having technical difficulties right now. So on that note, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Andrew.
Hi, thanks, Latajane. Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Haw. I'm the Program Associate for the Elevate Youth California team, and I'm just excited to be here with all of you and to be working together for this next project. I can pass it on next. I'll also introduce briefly Matt Cervantes. He's the Managing Director of Healthy Youth Development Programs. He's unable to attend today, but he will also be, supporting us. And yeah, on this slide here, we make up the kind of the day-to-day Elevate Youth California team, but I would love to pass it on to our other team members that are supporting during this program. So I'll pass it to Noemi.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here today. I'm Noemi Avalos, Evaluation Officer at Sierra Health Foundation and the Center. And the role of the evaluation team in this project is to provide support to the EYC team with data collection and reporting. And in that role, we are also providing technical assistance support to you all with any data collection and reporting needs. I will pass it to my colleague, Brianna Mattis.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Brianna Mattis, and I'm the Evaluation Assistant at Sierra Health Foundation in the Center. And Noemi kind of outlined our role, so I'll pass it over to Samantha.
Good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here with you all. I'm Samantha Garcia, one of the communications officers at Sierra Health Foundation in the Center. So pleased and honored to support your work through Elevate Youth California. The communications team is here to support your work in telling stories of your work and in other ways that we'll outline in this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your introduction, and sorry about the technical difficulties. My name is Bulvinder Gore. I'm the program officer with Elevate Youth California. And as my colleagues have shared, all of us comprise, in addition to a few other folks here at the center who support all of our funded partners with Elevate Youth California. And, we're just so excited to have the opportunity to go ahead and start our work together and start our partnership together, specifically focused on the capacity building of emerging grassroots organizations. And so we'll go into just brief high-level overview of what today's agenda is going to be. As we just had our welcome, we'll go ahead and continue on and if will you please advance the slides? I'm not sure if it's just a technical issue on my end. Oh, perfect. We'll give a little bit of a program background, and Latajane will share with you our cohort partners from both cohort 1 and cohort 2. Our partners have been funded over the last year and a half, and then a cohort of partners were brought on last November, so they're just reaching about their first year. We'll discuss the grant agreement process and the overview of grant requirements. Very high level. This orientation is not meant to stress you out in any sort of way, but just kind of give a high level overview of the different components to this grant and the requirements, and then we'll discuss upcoming TA webinars and also our communication strategy. And I will pass it on to Latajane, who will go into the overview of the program as well as our cohort partners.
All right, thank you so much, Paul Bender. So a little bit of background about Proposition 64. So on November 2016, Prop 64 was passed by voters allowing adults aged 21 or older to possess and use marijuana for recreational purposes. Prop 64 created new tax revenues, which are deposited into the California Cannabis Tax Fund. And 60% of that revenue goes to youth education prevention, early intervention, and the treatment account. So funds are dispersed to the Department of Healthcare Services, otherwise known as DHCS, for youth programs aimed to educate and prevent harm from a substance use disorder. So we work in collaboration with DHCS to implement the Elevate Youth California program. Thank you. All right, so the overall Elevate Youth California program goal is really grounded in social justice youth development. So Elevate Youth California supports a statewide network of organizations working on youth substance use disorder prevention, education and early intervention startup activities, and or enhancement efforts in low-income urban and rural areas throughout California. So for our first two cohorts, cohort 1 and cohort 2, have a focus on impacting policy, systems, and environmental change. However, for this current cohort, capacity building is focusing on capacity building activities and program activities. And also wanted to note that this program really focused on communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so for guiding principles, number 1, invest in youth empowerment, leadership, and development. So Elevate Youth California really strives to support the development of young people and their leadership development capacity, youth activism, and just overall being agents of social change. Number 2, program implementation through the cultural lens of the impacted community. So we really just want all approaches to be culturally responsive and really want to emphasize the importance of staff and partners being reflective of the communities that they're serving. And lastly, number 3, the promotion of population level impacts through policy, systems, and environmental change. So this can range from impact at a societal and structural level, such as discrimination and stigma, community level, such as access to healthcare services, social services, interpersonal, such as early childhood development, and individual, such as one's mental health status. So we really just want to promote the population level impact through the work that we do with Elevate Youth California. Next slide, please. Thank you. So for this cohort, Elevate Youth California supporting capacity building for community organizations. The purpose of this round of funding is to strengthen the capacity of emerging grassroots community-based organizations and tribal organizations throughout California to build effective and sustainable program practices for substance use disorder prevention among youth 12 to 26 years old in low-income, rural, or urban areas, racial, ethnic, and cultural communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as mentioned in the proposers webinars, the implementation strategies for this round of funding. So projects must contain a component of youth activism and at least one other mentorship and or peer-led support and leadership programs, such as mentorship and relationship building or peer-led support and leadership programs. All right, and I'll go ahead and dive into an overview of awarded round 2 partners. So 18 organizations have been selected for this current capacity building cohort. And once again, congratulations. We're really excited to work with all of you. And also just wanted to note that we received a total amount of 105 applications with a request of over $27.9 million. And we funded 18 organizations for just over $5 million. This was a really competitive process, and we really want to acknowledge the applicants and the consideration of the criteria in the RFA. All right, and here is the overview of our funded partners. Once again, congratulations, and this list can be found on the Elevate Youth California website with a description of each project and geographic focus. All right, and here is an overview of counties covered by awarded partners with this current capacity building cohort. And the next slide will show the map of all of our Elevate Youth California partners. So these are counties directly being impacted by the work. As you all can see with the capacity building cohort, we were able to expand to a few different areas in California. So yes, next slide, please. And here is just a list of our round 1 funded partners. You can find their information on the EYC website with descriptions and geographic location. And the next slide will also cover round 2 funded partners. Once again, you can find the description of the projects that they're doing, as well as their location on the EYC website. So we really encourage you all to look at the list of partners from both rounds and even reach out. All right, I know that was pretty quick, so we'll stop here for questions. Please feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A section. All right. Let's see.
And
I see a
Latasha,
few
I'm going to go
questions in
ahead
the
and
chat.
yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. There is one question to confirm we are cohort 3. So this is a great question. We are now actually, we're really excited to announce that we're going to be having multiple funding opportunities in each round. So we are going to be shifting from language that is cohort 1, cohort 2. We might keep this for our cohort 1 and 2 partners because they are in each round, but we will be technically, you all are a part of the round 2 funding opportunity and the capacity building cohort. And since you are our only capacity building cohort right now, and we won't be having another one until sometime next year, we will most likely be referring to you all as our capacity building cohort instead of cohort 3. This may get a little bit confusing, and the reason is because we have different rounds of contracts with the state, and we want to make sure that there isn't greater confusion that's occurring. Another piece that I really wanted to acknowledge, you know, in the earlier slides that Latajne covered, you saw essentially 2 different program goals. There is one goal for the overarching program itself for Elevate Youth California, and some of you may have seen over the last year, the 2 RFAs that had been previously open. We also have a current RFA right now. And this is specifically for our, what we're terming as our standard track. And so these are partners who are specifically focusing on policy and systems change work. Seeing the competitive nature of the standard track and the number of applicants that we were receiving for that track and for the first 2 RFAs, we recognize that there was just it was very competitive. And we wanted to make sure that we were setting up all of our partners for success moving forward, and that there were a number of partners who needed to focus or would like to have focused more on their capacity building efforts. And so that is where this track emerged, seeing that, you know, when you have more established or more resources for your organizations, whether it's to hire on a grant writer, whether it's to get greater support in the application process, we wanted to make sure that emerging grassroots organizations and frankly smaller organizations were just as competitive to receive Elevate Youth California dollars. And so in that, with that in mind, we're just really grateful for our reviewers, for our partners at DHCS and our team here at the center to go ahead and create this capacity building track. And so moving forward, we will be having this capacity building request for applications open in each of our rounds of funding. And yeah, so we are really excited. There is also a question about, will there be networking meetings? Yes, we'll dive into this a little bit later. And also around communications. We're so excited you're looking forward to sharing about this opportunity, and Samantha, our communications officer, will dive into this later in today's presentation. And one last question that I'll answer now before we move on is around applying for Elevate Youth California opportunities. So when you have, you are ineligible to apply when you have an active Elevate Youth California grant agreement or contract agreement. And so you all are funded as of August 16th, 2021 to August 15th, 2023. So over the next 2 years, you will be ineligible to apply. But following your completion of this agreement in 2023, we do anticipate whether it is the center or another entity will be having an RFA out. We do anticipate it'll be November 2023 at this time, but that may change each year. The timeline does change a little bit, but yeah, super excited to be able to support all of you. And I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to cover the next portion of this presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Paulinder, and thank you, Lakshane. Again, hi everyone, I'm Andrew, and I'll be covering the overview of the grant process and some of the requirements. All right, so first off, for the grant agreement process, you will be receiving an email through DocuSign with a link to your organization's grant agreement. And so we ask that all of you review your grant agreement and then sign the grant agreement via DocuSign. And we will note that payment 1 is contingent of grant agreement execution and will be sent via ACH or check. And we'll cover this on the next slide. We do encourage partners to set up electronic payments due to COVID. However, we understand that not all organizations may prefer electronic checks. While the preference is ACH, especially during these unprecedented times, if a check is required, we can work with partners. And we ask that you please review the ACH information in the grant agreement and return it to Kimberly, and all the instructions will be on the grant agreement on how to set up the ACH. All right, so next, we'll be going over the payment schedule for this grant. So this grant will be using a deliverable-based payment schedule. So as I previously mentioned, the first payment will be contingent upon the execution of the grant agreement. And then the second payment will be contingent upon the receipt and approval of the first 4 quarterly progress reports and the first annual financial report. Again, payments amounts are based on the submitted budget payments and will be made at the beginning of each project period. The first payment will be made once the state has made payment to the center, and this may take a few weeks after you complete your grant agreement, and then future payments will also be dependent on being current on the deliverables. We will review what a progress and annual report is momentarily, and again, payments will be made via ACH or through mail. right, next. So kind of an overview of the grant requirements. So I'll be going over the technical assistance and work plan, progress reports, both quantitative, qualitative, annual financial report, and then the cumulative report, which is also quantitative, qualitative, and also financial. All right, so for the technical assistance and work plan, this will really be focused around the strengths of your organization, strengths and weaknesses of your organization, and then, based on your technical assistance needs and the program objectives and activities. The work plan is what you hope to accomplish by the end of the entire project period. And the work plan is cumulative and outcome-based so that the applicant will be speaking to the outcomes that will result from the project and then dive into some of the specific activities that will roll up into each of the objectives. The work plan will be broken down into objectives, and under each of these objectives, there may be activities dedicated to each individual year. And again, as we mentioned in the RFA, we will be providing technical assistance with all of our partners to help develop this work plan. All right, so for the progress reports.
Andrew, sorry, Andrew,
yes.
can we go back to the last slide and we'll have Eval add in some comments.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. I just wanted to add that really the work plan is to have a solid plan. So to set you up for success, and we'll go over how to write the objectives and to what Andrew was talking, to make sure that at the end we are looking to what outcomes we would like to achieve through this project and how we're going to be tracking those outcomes and what technical assistance, what areas of technical assistance we need and in what areas we have, we're doing well and we can share that with other funded partners. Again, we'll provide more a separate training on this, so look out for this. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Naomi, for adding that additional details. All right, next will be the progress report. So there will be quantitative questions and a narrative. And we are working on the reporting template for the quarterly progress reports, and we will be hosting a separate webinar to review the reporting tool and answer all questions. This webinar is expected to take place in the first quarter of implementation to provide any technical assistance as needed. And this will be before the report is due to the center. Overall, the goal of the progress report is to capture the diversity of youth and young adults impacted by programming, the organization's capacity and progress towards building their capacity. And specifically, we are looking to see if the three primary outcomes of investing in youth empowerment, cultural lens, and capacity building activities are being met by all the partners. And lastly, we also want to hear about the work that is being done, and we'll provide a section and opportunity to just have a narrative from all the partners. All right, so next I'll go over briefly the annual financial report. So again, review the financial reporting template, and it will be connected with your approved budget. Show line item spending within the reporting period, and keep any supporting documentation of expenditures. And so again, this financial report will be based off of the approved budget that will be in the grant agreement. And again, we will share the annual financial reporting template with partners. And it will be shared on an annual basis. And then we'll ask all of our partners to complete and send it back to us via email. And then you can, build onto the same reporting document. This document will need to be updated since this is the template used for our first round. But this is just like a brief snippet of what the annual financial report will kind of look like. And I'll just show, the budget for each year, actual budget, so how much was actually spent during that time, and then it'll have the totals. And then lastly, the cumulative report. So again, likely this will match the progress report questions that are submitted at the end of the grant period. And just similarly, it will have a quantitative section, narrative section, and then lastly, the financial. So this is the report submission dates. Again, this is exactly pulled out from the RFA as well on progress reports, what periods they will cover, and when they will be due to the center. So the center will be providing reporting templates that ask about data points in the work plan. And then financial reports, again, will be describing actual expenditures of grant funding. Applicants will receive a fixed price amount rather than the payment for actual cost. However, the financial reports will describe line item spending. So it is required to submit all reports specified throughout the contract, even if activities completed prior to the end of the contract. And again, the cumulative report will just be a combination of all that data. So for the report submission process, again, we will share the reporting template and the submission process in a separate webinar. And we will note though that also all reports will be submitted via email. And so if there's going to be a narrative, then it will most likely be like in a Word document or PDF. And then financial reports will be in an Excel sheet, similar to how the budget template was. All right, and then lastly, I'll briefly touch on the budget modification process. And so again, we will have a budget modification template that we will share to partners. And we do ask that if you do submit a budget modification, that you will be required to have an updated budget narrative as well. And so you are able to make small changes to your budget without a modification. However, if the following criteria are met, the budget modification needs to be requested. And so again, this information we will provide on the template as well. So so the following criteria is that if any budget expenditure line item is expected to vary from the approved budget by more than 10% of the section total in each of either section 1 or section 2. So section 1 was the personnel cost, and then section 2 was the other expenses. A request to modify the budget must be submitted to and approved by the center before the expenditures are allowed. In addition, any anticipated transfer of funds from one section to the other, or any expenditure that's outside of the approved budget line items, are required prior approval from the center. So for a budget modification, you will be asked to complete the budget modification form in Excel and send it via email along with an updated budget narrative that's reflective of the new requested budget. And so the updated budget narrative should be for the total new budget and explain every line item, even those that haven't been changed. And so once it is reviewed and approved, you'll use this new budget for all future reporting. We do encourage that you to send your request in writing and also include the grant number of your contract in the subject line. When in doubt, always include your grant number in the subject line, just so that it'll be easier for us to reference back all the documents that are related to your contract. And lastly, you will you'll have to request for each year if it impacts other years. Yeah. And so, yeah, we are working on updating a new budget modification template. And hopefully, this one will be able to have cross-year budget modifications so that it's a little bit easier when submitting those budget mods. All right, so I know that was a lot of information. I went a little quick, but I'll pause for a second if there's any questions.
Thanks so much, Andrew. We have a few questions. The first question that was asked was, we will also need to attach our other accounting forms such as P&L statements, so profit and loss statements. So this is a great question. In regards to the directly to our program team, we are only requesting the annual financial report. It is going to be a very similar template. Of course, you won't have year 3 on there and the dates will change, but it'll be pretty much that form, right? That was shown on the previous slide. That is what we request at the center in regards to continuing payment and also being in good standing with your grant. However, there are some compliance measures from both the state, from the Department of Healthcare Services, as well as our compliance team here at the center. And so there will be random audits. I don't have details on how those occur, but of course, as you have with all of your organizational policies, there's ways in which to keep track of accounting measures and all of that. So we do encourage you to make sure that you are following your organizational processes, as well as any process for a potential audit. Again, I don't have any additional information on that yet, but in regards to the direct reporting for the center, the program team at the center, that is the previous Excel form that you saw. Another few questions. There was a question about going to a previous slide. Would it be the financial report slide? I believe it would be. So it'll be very similar to your budget template that was included in the RFA. So in your application, you completed a budget document, and this will be essentially very similar to that. And you will be using your approved budget, so the one that you had sent over at that time, or one that you are looking to modify. How much, there's another question around how much is the first payment upon contract execution, and do we submit reports monthly, get paid monthly after execution? So this is a great question. As Andrew shared previously, this is a deliverable-based contract. There are 2 payments in this grant agreement. One at the completion of the execution of your grant agreement. And I will also add the caveat that the center must receive payment from the Department of Healthcare Services. And one of the pieces around this work is being able to move things a little bit quicker than the state can. So it may be a little bit longer than when your grant agreement is executed. So we were looking to get your grant agreements out to you all within the next few weeks. We are making payments up front, so they are not reimbursements, they are upfront payments. So you'll receive the first one hopefully within the next month or so. And I say that because it is, again, contingent upon payment from the state. And your second payment will be at the start of year 2. So next August, we will be looking to, I believe actually it'll be a month after, because your reporting is due 1 month after that reporting period, which Andrew is moving along to those slides of the schedule for those reports. So you will see that report 4, and that's the last report of the year, is due September 15th. So after September 15th, you will also have, and this slide is missing the annual financial report as well. we'll go ahead and confirm that you're spending down, your budget and all of your progress reports are up to date, you're in good standing, and then we'll be able to release. So year 2 payment will most likely be anywhere from September, mid-September to October, depending again on payment from the state. Yes, so the first payment is a full year of funds. So the other question, or part of this question, which I wasn't clear about, is how much is that first payment and how much is the second payment, or the amount of the payments? And that is your what you had submitted in your budget. We are reviewing currently as we're getting the grant agreements together. We did see a few discrepancies in regards to amount requested and the budgets, and sometimes it's just Excel errors and all of that. Other times it's typos, and so we are going to be reaching out to any partners who we need clarification on. So within the next week or so, you should be getting your grant agreement, and if you're not getting your grant agreement right away, you will be getting an email from us that asks for an updated budget. And the amount that you have for year 1 will be the payment that you will be receiving, the first payment that you will be receiving. Another question, does that cover administrative costs? It is all costs that have been approved in your budget. So at this time, we have reached out to all of our partners. And so if you had requested, the amount that you requested matched the amount that you were approved for, in that email, all of those costs will be covered in your first payment. I'm going to go back up to the chat to just confirm that we didn't miss any questions, and if we did, feel free to ask once more. I don't want to miss any questions in regards to this. I know financials are always a particular piece on this, and so we want to make sure we have this. This is a great question. If you put a certain tracking system but decide to use another tracking system with the same price, is that okay? Yes. From our end, if and similar to equipment too, say if you put down, you were looking to go ahead and get one brand of tablets or a laptop, and you decided to go ahead and get another brand, we are not particular about that. It is for the specific line items and the narrative that you've added to the budget. So if you were deciding to go ahead and use, let's say, a tracking system to keep track of youth, let's say, and you decided to go from Salesforce to Nation Builder, on our end, that wouldn't be any sort of issue. But let's say if the purpose of the tracking system is completely different, say you were requesting, to keep track of youth, and then you decide to go ahead and change it to a budget or administrative tracking system, that would be very different. So we would ask you to go ahead and submit a budget modification. And again, there is some leniency in regards to submitting budget modifications in regards to the pricing. So, even if you're using a tracking system that has the same purpose, and let's say it differs by 5%, that's totally fine from our end. Or the price moving forward changes. When you had looked at the cost when you applied, it was a little bit cheaper, and for some reason it's increasing. As long as, again, it does not differ by 10%, that is totally fine on our end and would not require a budget modification. Okay, seeing no other questions, and again, there's going to be plenty of time for questions at the end, and we'll stay on for a bit. And we'll go ahead and continue with the presentation, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Samantha, our communications officer here at the center, or one of our communications officers here at the center.
Thank you, Pulvinder. And hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here with you, and congratulations. It's really exciting to have you on board. Well, as you're probably understanding, you are part of a big team here to support you. So Again, my name is Samantha Garcia. I am one of 2 communications officers here at Sierra Health Foundation, the center. We also have a director of communications, Liv O'Keefe, and the other communications officer is Katie Bassini. Both are ready and excited to work with you as well. So really appreciate the question that came up about wanting to share the exciting news about your partnership with us through Elevate Youth California on social media, newsletters, etc. So one of the things that's going to be happening very soon is we are going to share a press release that we created about this exciting news about your partnership with us and a toolkit. And this toolkit is going to have some messaging, just so we have shared language about Elevate Youth California and the work that you're doing, logo for Elevate Youth California, social media guidelines. And we really hope, that this will answer some of the questions that you have, provide, again, that common language. We hope that this will be helpful. We don't have a lot of hard and fast rules about what you must do. We really just want this to be a tool that is useful to you. So we will share that shortly, but please do, in the meantime, feel free to start drafting your, any language that you would like. We hope that the toolkit we share will be available very shortly for you. But we do ask that you send that to our team. We've got it outlined in the guidelines, the toolkit, who that is, the appropriate person is when you start to need logos or have a press release that you're issuing. And this is mostly so we can help lift it up as well, so that we can put it on our social media, so that we can, make sure that you've got the
Samantha, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, my cat is walking across my keyboard and muted me. I'm not sure where it left off, but we just want to make sure that you have all of the tools that you need to be able to share the information with your community, and we look forward to doing so. The Elevate Youth California does have social media presence through and Latajane is sharing the information in the chat right now through Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We also have the same through the Center at Sierra Health Foundation, which is our organization that all of us here today are employees of. The Center at Sierra Health Foundation is a health and racial equity organization committed to policy and systems change, and the work that you're doing through Elevate Youth California is so important, especially as has been discussed today, for communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs. So we're really thrilled to share both on EYC, Elevate Youth California, and the center, social media, website, etc., the stories that of your success. And so the big request here is to keep us in the loop as you have special events or social media posts. Please tag us, send us your stories, reach out with any questions or needs, because we really want to help uplift your work. It really helps tell an important story about this big network that you are now part of that's doing some really incredible things for youth across California. So we will reach out if there are opportunities to serve as a spokesperson for this work. We'd love for you to think about who that might be when there are opportunities to do so. And we would love for you to share your stories. As I said, we'll send out the branding and messaging guidelines very shortly. And we'll also provide a link to a place where you can really easily share stories and photos. We hope that that will be very useful for you. In this toolkit, you'll have contact information for myself, Liv, and Katie, the communications team at Sierra Health Foundation, the center supporting your work through Elevate Youth California. And also in this this slide deck, my information is available. I'll put it in the chat in case you have any questions now. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to the team unless there are any questions I can answer.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and pause here actually for any questions related to communications. And if not, we'll allow for more time at the end as well. I do see there is a hand raised. I'm going to go ahead, Hunwit Turner. I'll go ahead and allow for that to be unmuted so that way you can share. I don't know if that went.
Actually, that was a mistake. I don't have a question. Thank you.
Okay, no worries whatsoever. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, if there's no other questions for comms right now, oh, yes. We do have one question around, will there be a directory of partners? We saw that a past grantee can assist us. So this is a great question. We are working on a compiled directory. And so we're in the process of sending out a contact survey to just make sure that all of the partners are sharing contact information there and for the necessary and folks who are who would be able to be contacted for each of the partners. So we'll be working on that as well as sending out the survey to you all in the coming weeks. At this time, you are more than welcome to visit our website, elevateyouthca.org, and go ahead and reach out to those partners as well, especially if you feel they can provide any sort of assistance. And currently, all of our Elevate Youth partners, our grantees are still active. So we have not had a complete cohort at this time since the funding for rounds 1 and 2 are for just about 3 years. And so you are more than welcome to reach out to them. And if you would like us to go ahead and put you in touch, we're more than happy to do so as well. There's another question around, is there a logo or brand that should be included on our program posters? Yes, as Samantha shared, there is going to be a branding document as well as a document around the logo and communication guidelines. And so we'll have both a small blurb at the end that talks about this funding that we do ask for you to include on all of your posters. We do understand that on certain social media graphics, it might not always be the easiest to incorporate. So that's not required there, but anything that does have the logo, we do ask you to send to our comms team for approval to make sure that it incorporates the best practices and the guidelines for the logo itself. Our comms team is really amazing and accessible. And so, I do encourage you all to reach out to Katie and Samantha if you have any questions. And again, their contact information will be shared in the toolkit as well as at the end of this presentation. And we will go back up to the partner slide just as, let's take a moment to go back up to the partner slide real quick. We want to acknowledge that there's 18 partners from this new cohort, this capacity building cohort. And so this is the current list of funded partners. I do want to, yes. And so these are the 18 funded partners from this round of funding. We're going to go very quickly. And again, these slides will be shared with you. And I'm going to pause actually. Andrew, will you go back to the capacity building cohort map? So we specifically designed this map to be able to go ahead and you'll see the blue dots, and that is the number of different organizations that are working in each of those counties. So, if you're in Fresno County, there's currently only one partner who's doing work there from the capacity building cohort. However, in both the cohort 1 and cohort 2 of our standard track, there are various partners that are also doing work in Fresno. So this just allows you to see the number of partners in each of the counties, but also the coverage across the state. And the next map will allow you to see the number of partners in each of these counties. And, we do have the differing dots. In orange is a standard track. And I will highlight again that the main difference in regards to the standard track in our capacity building cohort is they are also tasked to, one of their requirements is youth activism through policy and systems change work. And you will note that this is not a requirement for our capacity building cohort. Your work is centering on building your capacity through direct capacity building efforts or through program activities. And as Latajne mentioned in the chat, our partners are, the list of partners are available on our website as well. Okay, we'll continue on because I want to keep track the time as well, and keeping that in respect. And so we'll go ahead and, for us as something that we wanted to acknowledge, and it was mentioned earlier in regard to, is there going to be an opportunity for networking? Yes, we are really looking to build a community of practice. We see each of our tracks and each of the RFAs as an opportunity to expand the network by supporting the work that's already done in the field. And we want to be very clear in our role as the contractors with the Department of Healthcare Services. Our role is really to go ahead and support you all in the work that you already are doing. And so our topics in the technical assistance component will cover, aspects related directly to substance use prevention. And then with your cohort specifically, we'll be really focusing on capacity building efforts. And so as Noemi and Brianna shared earlier, they'll be working with you all in September in a number of webinars that will start with the TA work plan and your program work plan. That will really get you thinking about, what exactly are the strengths and weaknesses, or the challenges, or the areas of improvement that you all see, and how you can further build your capacity, and how your outcomes will be achieved through your specific activities that are related to those outcomes. And so we are really excited to be launching this cohort. It is the first capacity building cohort from the Elevate Youth California program. And our goal ultimately is to be able to provide greater sustainability around substance use prevention work and education work, as well as making the work that you're doing stronger to eventually apply for the larger $1 million standard track grants that are available. And so hopefully in 2023, we'll be seeing a number of you applying to those as well. And so we will be having technical assistance webinars and various resources that will be shared with you. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out, so we'll be sharing that with all of the partners that are funded across the different cohorts as well. And we'll go into the next slide in regards to convenings. If things were safe, we would be meeting in person. This grantee orientation would be happening at the center in Sacramento, and we would be bringing you all, together in that space. Unfortunately, with the current situation with COVID-19 and the pandemic, we are keeping safety as our priority, and we will not be having any in-person convenings at this time, but we are anticipating for larger or for virtual convenings, or if not in person, hopefully one day. And so spring 2022 and spring 2023 are what our goals are. And I'll share briefly for you here, if we were meeting if we were allowed to meet in person and it was safe to do so, we would have full day networking sessions and opportunities to go ahead and receive direct TA in person at the center, and potentially do this more frequently. However, we've shifted this into various components. One it comprises of individual as well as larger webinars that are conducted in regards to technical assistance. We do monthly networking sessions. Our team here at the center goes ahead and selects a topic, and then we'll go ahead and dive deeper into that topic and allow for all of our partners to connect with each other in the larger Zoom space, as well as breakout rooms to discuss the work that they're doing around that specific topic. And so we truly do believe in a community of practice and learning. And so we are looking for you all to support one another as well, and to learn from one another. And wherever we can possibly do so, to provide greater opportunities of learning through technical assistance as well. And I will also mention in regards to the convenings, whether virtual or in person, as well as the networking sessions, we do encourage you to share this with all of the program staff who are active with your Elevate Youth California grant. It is important for folks who are directly on the project to be joining those sessions, and also receiving our newsletter. So we'll be sharing more information in that regarding or in the upcoming contact survey that we have. You know, we don't have any, and that's the beauty of the Zoom spaces, is that there's really no maximums. There are limits, but I don't think we're there to reaching them yet. And so we do encourage you to send and to share this with all of the program staff that are connected to your Elevate Youth California program. And we'll go into the listening sessions. You were required in the RFA to go ahead and host a minimum of 1 youth listening session. This is very similar to a focus group. Our current best practices, which we'll share more about in this first quarter, is really you know, anywhere from 5 to 12 youth, or if you feel you have the capacity to facilitate a conversation with more youth, that's great too. But really looking to hear from them and receive feedback on the strategy that you have in the program and project implementation. We truly do want to center youth in this program and ensure that youth are leading these programs. And so on our end, you know, it is very critical to hear from them and center their voices in this work. We've seen partners share with host youth listening sessions in the beginning of as soon as they are selected and awarded the Elevate Youth California program grant. And so, you know, some of them will go ahead and say, hey, here's a work plan we decided, you know, provide us your feedback. What are thoughts on these sessions? What are thoughts in regards to some of the communications aspects? What are your opinions, and what are you feeling in regards to social media strategy, recruitment, youth retention? You know, the topics are endless. But the real purpose, again, is to receive feedback and center youth voices and ensuring that they are the ones who are leading and are centered through this program itself. And I'll go ahead and just conclude with some important reminders. So, you know, we are looking to be sending out your grant agreement within the next few weeks. So you should be receiving an email in regards to potentially an updated budget, or just directly your initial contract via DocuSign. Our communications team will be sending over those guidelines as well as the toolkit with the logos. So we do ask you to hold off on announcing, just so that way we have the language that we do ask you to include on that. And so please do stay on top of, if you do not receive your grant agreement as well as the executed grant agreement in the upcoming few weeks, feel free to reach out to us and we'll share our contact just briefly. The reporting, we'll be having a webinar in regards to sharing the data reporting tool for your cohort, as well as the work plan. And so we're going to be working through the TA work plan and then going into the reporting period. And again, those are due quarterly, and you have a month after the quarter ends to submit those to us. Listening sessions, again, you're only required to host 1 annually. However, you are more than welcome to host more than 1. We love, again, centering youth voices and ensuring that they're leading these programs. And also we'll keep you updated in regards to the virtual, and when safe to do so, the in-person meetings and all the resources that we share. You'll probably receive a number of emails from us over these next 2 years. We are hoping to consolidate a lot of that information via the newsletter monthly, in addition to additional emails that are sent out as resources or events emerge. And so with that, I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and leave it on the contact and resources slide. And I'll go ahead and ask any additional questions if there are any, or I'll answer additional questions. So one question was around the next few weeks. So that would be by the end of September 6th. Yes, if you do not receive, I would even say a grant agreement by the end of this month, by September 6th, after Labor Day, if you do not receive one, please feel free to go ahead and email us. We're more than happy to go ahead and answer any questions, but we are hoping, again, to get that out to you hopefully by next week. When is the estimated date for the financial webinar? So the financial webinar, because the financial webinar the financial report is annual, we don't anticipate having a webinar for that until probably Q3. We'll be discussing that at that time. However, we may go ahead and include a separate webinar around the budget modification and all of that. So we'll keep you all posted on that end. And if for some reason you feel, or if you have mentioned in your application or as you're building your TA plan, that budgeting financial resources is something that you would like additional support and capacity to build your capacity, feel free to include that on your TA work plan and let us know, and we'll look to prioritize that sooner as well. Are we already subscribed to the monthly newsletter, or how can we get additional staff subscribed? This is a great question. And again, we'll be sending out a survey or an email shortly, again, in the next few weeks in regards to being on there. And so the contact and what we do is we go ahead and compile those lists and keep them active. And so if you're more than welcome to send an email to us and saying, here's the program staff that we would like to receive all communications. But again, we will be sending out a survey. So we're more than happy to go ahead and collect that information at that time. Any other questions?
Just really quick, there was a link that was shared in the chat by Latajane where you can just go in and subscribe directly to our newsletter.
Thanks, Andrew, for that. Okay, there's another question that says, if I understand correctly, 20% is added to our outlined budget for indirect costs. This is a great question. So it is up to 20% of your budget. We do want to account that in the budget template that there was an adjustment that you're supposed to make in regards to what your indirect cost is, and we recognize that many organizations don't have that full cost of 20%. So again, we are going to be reviewing the budgets and asking for any additional clarification and looking at that. And so if you also want to be a little bit proactive and you say, hey, we submitted this and we've had some changes already, feel free to reach out to us and we'll go ahead and work through that. And essentially this will be super helpful in regards to making sure that your payments for year 1 and 2 on your grant agreement match what you expect them to be as well. So if for some reason you defaulted to the 20% on the indirect cost and your organization indirect cost is not 20%, we do ask you to reach out to us to go ahead and submit a budget modification. Again, this is just the maximum amount that we allow for, and it isn't necessary that you have to have that as your cost. And there is justification, so we do ask justification in that in regards to the budget justification document that you had submitted in your application. Any other questions? And I will also share that for sending emails, we encourage you to go ahead and send your emails to elevateyouthca@shfcenter.org. So the first email on this slide, and feel free to copy me, Palvinder Kaur, pcore@sierrahealth.org on all of your emails that come in. As Andrew mentioned, please do include at this time, no, you have received your grant agreement. It was in the email that was sent out when you received your approval for your grant. And so your grant agreement number is in that email. So feel free to include that in your communications with us. Any final questions? If we send a question to Sierra Health, should we also send it to UIC? Yes, so all emails that come in should be sent to elevateyouthca@SHF Center. So if you have previously worked with folks at the center, I will share that they will end up just forwarding your email over to us. So Emails that are sent over are communications that is conducted. We ask that you send it to Elevate Youth CA at SHF Center, and then copy our program team. So myself, Palvinder Kaur, Andrew, and Latajne as well. And if you have specific questions, again, for communications or for our evaluation team, who I apologize, their email is not on this slide, but is in the chat, and we'll update this slide with their contact information before we share it out with you all as well. And so we do ask that you do copy the Elevate Youth CA email in all of your communications with anyone at the center in regards to Elevate Youth California. Awesome. If there are no other questions, and we will go ahead and conclude today's grantee orientation. And again, the slides will be shared with your team, with the folks who have registered, and also with the individuals who are on the contact for in the application. And you are more than welcome to forward this on to your program staff. I believe we'll also be updating it to the website, so we'll keep you posted on that. So that way there will be a direct link there as well. And again, I just wanted to go ahead and highlight, that as Latajne mentioned earlier, that Elevate Youth California is a very competitive grant. We received 105 applications with nearly 6 times the amount that we can actually award. And so, we just want to go ahead and congratulate you all once again. And we hope that you celebrate this small or big win, however you see it. And we are just so excited to be partnering with you over the next 2 years with this specific funding, and looking forward to continuing that partnership outside of that too. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to email us and get in touch. We'll be in touch in regards to your grant agreements shortly. Thank you all again.